Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation on critiquing a media story. My name is Maha Kumaran and I am critiquing a story from Inside Higher Ed. The title of the news story is Making Diversity Happen, published on September 28th of this year. I have provided a tiny URL here and also the full URL towards the end of the presentation. This news article mentioned Boston College and the University of California, Riverside because they opted for cluster hiring. They did this to increase diversity among their faculty. I will explain cluster hiring in a short bit. The numbers in the parentheses are the numbers of faculty hired using cluster hiring. As you can see, these are big numbers. Institutions do not usually hire so many people within a short time frame. Although it is not clear from this news piece what the time frame was, it looks like Boston College did this in 1 year and California did this in 2 years. Diversity in this article seems to mean ethnic diversity only. They call it AHANA, Asian, Hispanic, African, and Native American descent. The reason why these two institutions opted for cluster hiring was because they had difficulty in diversity hiring. There were implicit biases and academics resisted diversity initiatives. They tended to hire from existing pipelines, and one way to break away from this was to do cluster hiring. In this news piece, both institutions did a lot of pre-work and provided training and support to their faculty search committees. So what is cluster hiring? Why and how is it done? Cluster hiring is also called team lifting or team staffing. This is where large groups of employees are hired in a short time. Even 100 or more can be hired. The first such team hiring was done in 1946 by Ford Motor Company when 9 employees with statistical backgrounds were hired. It is often done for interdisciplinarity. The challenge is that it is not always easy to find collaborative interdisciplinary researchers. It's often done with help from external funds. Boston College received some external funds. It is also done to create a sense of community among minority and interdisciplinary scholars so they can work together on specific projects. It is also done to go past the usual hiring restrictions such as hiring to fill in a quota or meet affirmative action requirements. It requires getting buy-in from everyone involved, such as the hiring committee, all the faculty, human resources, leadership, etc. It also requires revising a lot of policies and procedures such as hiring, tenure, and promotion. Everyone involved needs to be trained on what this means, what the process will require, and how long this is going to be. It is also important to train new faculty hired through cluster hiring on what the expectations are from them, particularly towards tenureship and promotion. A strong minority presence is a powerful attraction for other minority faculty and students. For these two institutions, it was not important to hit a numerical target of X number of diverse hirings, but more important to have conversations with their faculty and leadership. The training involved having clear goals, employing good strategies for recruitment, and providing faculty with template emails to send to colleagues and other connections asking to identify and hire new members for specific purposes. This has been done before by the State University of New York in Geneseo in 2014 for their Latin Studies department. Now that we know what cluster hiring is, let's look at the pros and cons of cluster hiring. What are the pros? We often hear complaints about lack of diversity in higher education. These two institutions cared about diversity and wanted to diversify their faculty. Because big groups of people are hired, these minority faculty will have a community to belong to. Underrepresentation of minorities or a lack of critical mass of minority faculty have caused retention challenges. Such diversification forces all involved to accommodate the different perspectives. Think collegiality and think getting buy-in. All procedures, policies, and strategies will have to be modified, including these multiple perspectives, and that can be a good thing. In the US, research depends on external grants, and grants demand having interdisciplinary or interprofessional research teams. Since the market demands such teams, this hiring will help increase the success rate of acquiring grants. Focusing on faculty diversity will also help attract diverse students. All students engaged in this diverse environment will be better prepared for the global world outside of their academic institution. What are some of the cons of cluster hiring? Cluster hiring is new in education. It's been done in the business world, but there's not enough research to tell us whether this is successful or will be successful in the future. Cluster hiring could be seen as superseding regular hiring and just replacing with diverse faculty. Universities should be careful with this. What is the impact on post-secondary education? What does cluster hiring mean for tenureship? If tenureship has changed, will that impact academic freedom in institutions? Such hiring has only been done in the sciences and the STEM fields where women are fewer. Although the article says women should be considered under diversity, we need to wait and see whether cluster hiring will include women under diversity. Focus has been on hiring candidates who have been successful in obtaining grants or who can attain success with grants. If this is the only reason for such cluster hiring, it is a narrow focus. The cluster hiring initiative is considered successful and an exciting idea in these two institutions. But success will depend on ongoing work towards implementation. It is important to continue training existing faculty in leadership and also the new hires on all the expectations from them. It requires foreseeing and forethought as to what will be needed 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Such huge hiring, particularly focusing on one type of diversity, can cause concern and aggravate inequality because it is not inclusive. Such lack of inclusivity may not help institutions reach their social goals, as a society is far more diverse. The article also made me wonder about the board and whether the board is diversified, and if so, what kind of diversity exists on the board. Connecting this article to the theories in our textbook. Social cognition theory believes that behavior, environmental situations, cognition, and other personal factors are affected by each other. It is about dynamic interactions between people and their environments. These institutions were cognizant of the gap in diversity among their faculty and cognizant about the need for an interdisciplinary team to obtain grants and conduct research, and were therefore motivated to opt for cluster hiring. In this news piece, the environment was the academic world. The academic environment felt there was a lack of diversity around them and wanted to do something urgent and big. It is possible that the leadership at these institutions also felt the need to improve their place in society or the academic ranking world and therefore opted for cluster hiring. In terms of how the market might have affected or influenced the academic oligarchy, I already mentioned the need for an interdisciplinary team for research grants and funds. Perhaps this was the motivation. Collegiality is a very important issue in governance, and it is needed to bring about such large changes. After reading about collegiality from our textbook and watching the video on our Blackboard on this topic, and also as a UFS employee, I wondered how much collegiality was involved to attempt and make this cluster hiring happen. There must have been a lot of conferring, collaborating, and consensus gaining. The processes involved in getting ideas or thoughts mobilized campus-wide are not easy. Here's the full URL to the article. You can also access the article by going through the library website. I have 2 questions posted. You can discuss both or either or. The first question, diversity is not just about ethnicity or race. What are educational institutions doing to increase other types of diversity and promote inclusivity? The second question for discussion is, are Canadian universities doing enough to hire diverse faculty? There are statements in job advertisements indicating the importance of hiring diverse candidates, but how is this operationalized? What processes are in place to ensure that it is operationalized? Please discuss or share your own institution's work on this. Thank you for watching.